Palais Garnier was the premier opera house in Paris during La Belle Époque. Seating nearly 2,000, it is one of the most impressive buildings built during the time, and is among the most recognizable buildings in Paris. The Grand Staircase is the most famous staircase in the world. It is opulent to excess, grand beyond belief. It was built in traditional Beaux-Arts style, with elaborate, ornamented exteriors and interiors, as well as heavy use of axial symmetry. The opera house is adorned with images of famous musical figures, while the panelings subtly illustrate musical symbols. The design was so well loved that it takes its name from the architect of the opera house, Charles Garnier. Further, instead of being known as Opera Garnier, it is known as Palais Garnier, meaning palace, reflecting the palace-like style of the opera house. Palais Garnier came to greater recognition through The Phantom of the Opera, which takes place in Palais Garnier and was written in 1910. The famous chandelier death scene is certainly realistic, as the real Palais Garnier chandelier weighs about 6 tons. Additionally, the chandelier alone costs nearly 30,000 francs, illustrating how expensive Palais Garnier was to build. Though it was built from 1860 to 1875, a bit before La Belle Époque era, it had an extraordinary influence on the everyday life of people during La Belle Époque. It was used by the upper class as a marker of social status. It was the place to see and be seen. While the design of the opera house was undeniably French, the operas performed here were anything but that. To quote Eleanor Olin, a musical historian, Le Palais Garnier was one of the most retrograde and conservative of all French cultural institutions. For the most part, the opera only repeated productions of Italian bel canto works and ignored the works by living French composers. However, in response to those critics, from 1895 to 1897, the opera began performing new French works as part of Les Concerts de l'Opéra series. While they were a financial disaster, and the series was stopped after the 1897 series and replaced with the traditional Italian fare, it served as an important milestone for French music. Paul Ducasse, a former pupil of the Paris Conservatory, once noted that no one can predetermine the scope of influence resulting from the opera's direction's generous endeavor. Ducasse was right. The fact that new French operas were being performed at Palais Garnier created a huge inspiration for creative musical thought, and the operatic French music scene began to flourish greatly after 1897. The music here is in bel canto style that one would likely see in an opera at Le Palais Garnier.